conflict between the Israeli and Palestinians. Now, here on the home front, calls are mounting for the South African government to cut all relations with Israel and expel the Israeli ambassador to South Africa. President Zuma says calls for expelling the Israeli ambassador have not been discussed in government, but it shows the seriousness with which South Africans viewed the situation. We're now joined in studio by Tom Wheeler. He is the former SA diplomat, and he's going to talk to us about what's currently happening here. It's good to have you, Tom. Thank you very much for taking the time to be with us this morning. Let's talk about what's happening in the Middle East. What is your view of the situation?
Well, I think both sides in this conflict, Hamas in particular, which control the Gaza Strip, which is on the Mediterranean and touches Egypt at the southern end, are a radical group who believe that Israel should be eliminated. You've got another group of Palestinians based in Ramallah, headed by President Mahmoud Abbas, who are prepared to negotiate a two-state settlement. And then the Israelis, of course, feel threatened on occasions. Various incidents happen and they retaliate. Yeah. So it sets this process in motion almost on every couple of years we go through this. 2008 we had the similar things, 2012 we had it, and now again this caused by the murder of those 3 young Israelis in Hebron.
Like we say, I mean, that was just the tipping point.
Yes.
It's always been a boiling pot and a very tense situation.
Yes.
But that was the trigger.
That's right, in this case, definitely.
When we look at what's happening now, and if we have to compare it to the different situations, is there a possibility that this could turn into a full-scale war?
Well, you know, the Israelis are reputedly have the 4th strongest military in the world. Hamas certainly doesn't. It has 10,000 rockets. So I don't see it turning into a full-scale war. I don't think it's in anybody's interest. You've got Israel has a peace treaty with Jordan, it has a peace treaty with Egypt, and Egypt often plays the role of the intermediary here to try and sort out this as they did in 2012. So who is going to fight Israel? I don't see anybody seriously taking this. I think it's going to be a sort of running battle type of thing where people are shooting rockets and missiles at each other. Yeah.
Let's talk about South Africa's stance, because we're being very, very vocal about this. I mean, calls firstly for the country's ambassador to Israel, Sizan Gubani, to actually be recalled from Israel, to come home. Then, of course, the expulsion, as the president, and I put it in the introduction, is that we haven't has gone as far at government level to say we're going to expel the Israeli ambassador here in South Africa from the country. But there is a definite pro-Palestine stance from our government. We know that.
That's right. But the first statement that came from Durko, Clayton Masiela, was that South Africa is in favor of a negotiated settlement, which is the traditional approach of South Africa. And so up to now, these calls have been resisted, that it would be better for them to get around the table to work out the two-state solution, to work out a truce, and to, it's in the interest of everybody in that region. It's nobody's interest to have rockets fired and people murdered, just on the basis of who they are. In that sense, I am sort of supportive of the South African government's policy that this approach should be there should be a negotiation to solve the problem, not a war. And I see President Zuma has also not taken a position there.
At that, we've heard comments coming from the likes of Zwelithini Mavivi, Ahmed Kathrada, comparing the situation in Israel and Palestine to that of apartheid, and saying that it's almost in a way worse than apartheid. How do we draw this comparison?
Yeah, well, I think this is a favorite thing. There is not a similarity in that Israel doesn't control the Palestine territories. It doesn't control Hamas in Gaza. So it's a false comparison, I believe. These are two potentially separate states that are in conflict with the other. And ironically, the South African ambassador in Tel Aviv is also responsible for the Palestine territories. He is accredited, as it were, to Hamas, not to Hamas, to Fatah in Ramallah. And the mission that South Africa has in Ramallah is administered from Tel Aviv. So, you know, it's a very complex situation that one can't really sort out in a few moments, little as they've been able to sort it out over 40 years.
Yeah. All right. Tom, final question, and very quickly. I think it's an impossible question to answer quickly, but let's try. What is the best way forward to get peace and to find a truce?
Yeah. Well, negotiations. If they're willing to get around the table and start seriously talking about solving this, rather than just taking sort of positions. And of course, the Israeli government faces a very strong right wing that want war, just want them to wipe out the Palestinians, take over the whole lot. So all of them have their problems, but the way forward is for them to sit down and really seriously negotiate a solution.
All right, Tom Wheeler, thank you for talking to us. Tom is a former South African diplomat and foreign affairs expert at the South African Institute of International Affairs. No?
No, not more.
Not anymore? Used to be. That was what he used to do. Now I'm
a freelancer.
Now you're a freelancer and you work with bougainvilleas. Well, hence the arm, unfortunately. Tom, thank you very much for being with us on the program.